Growing up, I felt caged. I was oftentimes scared. I grew up living a lot of secrets and needing to maintain those in order to keep my family safe. And so I never felt a sense of being free to be me, whomever that was. There's so many different components to my story. The direct cult experience, the indirect coping mechanisms of bulimia and drinking, and the deaths, losing parents young, a young divorce. I define a cult as an unhealthy group with a religious focus that has an authoritative leader. I was keeping my family safe from mainstream public finding out about our lifestyle and our belief system. I was told that some of it was illegal and also people generally would not understand. I lied about everything. I lied about why we didn't celebrate holidays. I lied about the way I was dressed, the long skirts, the long hair, things like that. My siblings, which was the biggest one, I said that I had one and then a bunch of cousins, but our group was polygamous and I had 16 siblings in total. I lied about my dad traveling for his job when really he was back and forth between different families. Lying all the time made me feel scared and like I just constantly had to be on guard to cover things. I could never just be at peace and at rest. I learned to be really quiet. I learned to be quiet within my home to draw less attention. I was terrified. I was terrified of my dad. I was terrified of his abuse, his abusive nature. I was terrified of not knowing what would set him off and when he would get set off. I was terrified of not having the time with my mom because my dad did not care for us being close to her. He'd say we were spoiled. I also was terrified of not having any sort of protection while he was there. I remember driving on the school bus past the house and seeing that his car was in the driveway, meaning he had come home for a while and I didn't know for how long. Truth in my upbringing was whatever my parents said it was. My dad was similar to a John the Baptist who was heralding Jesus' third and final coming. I believed that Jesus had come a second time already, and the world had missed it to a degree. And because of that and the overlap that would occur, I was raised that my parents and their associated generation in this group could not and would not die. Those were the most significant spiritual beliefs. I absolutely believed those things. I was raised in them since I was born. I never knew anything different. I loved my parents and I trusted them even though I was afraid of him. My dad passed away when I was 21 and he was supposed to be immortal. He was not supposed to die, so that was shocking. We rationalized that based on some teachings that he had, so I continued to believe in this faith. But then my mom passed away when I was 25 and she was my world. After my parents died, I finished up my master's degree and then I packed up what fit into my Prius and I left the state and found myself in Colorado. I had to have some space between there and myself. I couldn't see the places that I had been seeing for a while. In retrospect, I have a different outlook. But I knew at that time if I was going to heal and come away from that, I had to get away. Looking back, I would think in my story that my upbringing would be the hardest part, but the transition was actually the hardest part. I was so devastated inside and had so many years of hiding and bottling things up and not feeling things that I couldn't answer the question, how do you feel? I could only say what I thought. As I got older and moved on from that a bit, and I did share, no one knew what to do with that information. Truth during this period of my life was whatever I felt. It was my emotion. I sought out Reiki and mediums and those sorts of more New Age practices to try to connect with them and get guidance. Trusting myself has come a long way. That was one of the biggest problems, potentially the core issue in the transition that I made out of the cult. I was so used to being told and just agreeing and going along with it, whether I believed it or not. I didn't even think to consider if I believed it or not. I just had to do it. And so when I transitioned out, I had to learn how to trust myself and have that confidence in my research and in the investigating that I was doing. And now I don't have to be afraid because I can trust myself. These groups are common. I am running into and meeting way too many people who have overlaps in their stories. And it absolutely wrecks me that so many people are going through this and don't necessarily have a voice, especially coming out of their secrecy, to reach out and find the help and support that they need. For someone who is in this situation and they're seeking healing, they're seeking what truth is, I would encourage them not to give up, because I'm the one who has made it to the other side, and it's beautiful over here, and it's so worth it. And it gets way worse for a little while, but then it gets way better, and it's genuinely better all the way through, all the way to my core. I'm not having to fake it and cover up anymore. I genuinely have a good life. My life right now is so good. I have a good life now. I miss my parents. I miss my mom. I wish she were here to play cars with her grandson. She would love him so much. But I'm also relieved that they're gone, because I've gotten a new life because of that. And I get to give my son a different life because of that. There's so many different parts to my story. There's so many different experiences that I've had. And for anyone who resonates with even a piece of that, I want them to know that there's hope, that their life can be different, that they can heal.